We're on.
Hey, hello everybody. Welcome to Monday Night Paranormal Live with myself, Paul from Host for Ghost, and Angela from South Coast Ghost. We may have a few others come on as we go through the evening. It'll be a short one tonight because a few people are on holiday and Angela's just got back and I'm away in Hampshire again. So it may be a short one. So what we thought we'd do is talk about past life regression. So
Mhm.
if anybody's watching or on catch up, if you've had an experience of a past life regression, please get in contact, comment us. Alan and Gilla will see the comments and we can answer your questions and various things. So if you have any comments, I've done it with Daniel from Mystical Legend will be on. He may well be. I think he's recovering from the conference last week or the week before, so
Yeah.
he's probably still packing all the boxes.
Mhm.
So we may have a couple more come in, but if not, we'll have a brief Monday night live. We just want to come on here, just make sure you still remember us and we ain't gone anywhere. We won't be going anywhere, but we carry on with the Monday night live. So if you have any topics you want us to talk about, I need, we have a couple of special guests. We're waiting to hear confirmation of the dates they could come on and talk about their paranormal experiences. One of them being an American paranormal group, so you can hear how different their investigations are to us. Really interesting couple, great fun, quite funny. So stay tuned. We'll put it out as soon as we can. We're just waiting for them to confirm because they're busy doing events at the moment in the United States. So he'll contact me when he's ready, and we'll see if we can get him on the Monday Night Live. Uh, and a couple of guys from YouTube, famous guys from YouTube. They said they'll come on, but they're busy. So he's going to also send me the dates when they're available. So stay tuned. We'll get them on as soon as we can. Hi, Ian. Should be going to an old church in Dorset at the end of August. Apparently, the most Knowlton Church in Dorset. Oh, never heard of that one. Thank you, Ian. I'm in Fareham in Hampshire, so I'm not far from Dorset. Paul's about 20 miles from us, so we're right on the borders of Dorset. Never heard that one. It sounds quite interesting, that one. Let us know how you get on. Pop back on. Let us know on Monday night how you got on, how you it was what it was like, so we can talk to you. Or if you want to come in and talk to us about your investigation there, we'd be more than happy to have you come on. So welcome to Monday Night Paranormal Live from myself and Angela. So
Mhm.
we'll start on a past life regression. So if anybody watching's had anything like that happen to them or been regressed in any way, please come on and let us know so we can hear your story. So past life regression. I think it happened to me probably about 2 years ago, really. Now we was round a friend of Jenny's. So we were sitting there and I said to them, just out of the blue, oh, do you know it's D-Day, 6th of June, it's D-Day. And then suddenly in my third eye or in my head, I could see myself standing on a street corner. So I shut my eyes and I could see the street corner. And I was standing by this corner shop, waving something, looking through what I can only describe as a book. Looked like a book to me. But I could hear them asking me questions because they knew that something had happened and I'd gone somewhere.
Mhm. Mhm.
So they were asking me questions, uh, what year is it? They're saying. I said, what do you mean? What year is it? Why can't you tell the year? It's 1942, isn't it? Of course it is. And they're like, okay, right. Evening, Luke.
So
How are you, bud? You
they're not
okay?
they're too bad, thanks. Yeah.
Good, good, good. Hang on.
Pizza.
We've got a visitor on board. All right. So anyway, we were so they were asking me questions, where are you? And I said, oh, I'm outside a shop. Where do you think I am? And I don't remember much of it, but they were talking about it after. So they said, well, what are you looking at? I said, I'm looking at a ration book. And I was literally outside a shop. And I could see the shop, describe the shop on the corner. They say, what is the shop like? It's an old fashioned shop with you open the door and a ding as you walk in the door. And I was explaining all this around me. Poppy, stop it. So as time went on, they said, "Where are you now?" I said, "Oh, it's been a plane crash. I've got to go." And I could see myself running down the street and through a house, side of a house, and into this
Oh.
field. And I'm running across this field through the allotments, and I could see myself running. And I ended up in this field, and sure enough, there was a plane crash. There's a plane that had come off the end of the runway, but it's a World War II bomber. So they're saying, What's the?" I said, "It's on fire. It's on fire. You've got to get people out. There's people in it." And I could see myself dragging people out with some other people out of this plane. And the hat I had on was like an air raid warden's hat, like a flat hat that I'd taken off, and had the bag around me and the black suit because they looked at myself. Anyway, we sort of dragged these people out, and the plane was on fire. And I can hear them asking me, "What colour's the plane?" "Oh, it's a silver plane." "What has it got any mark?" "Oh, yeah, there's like green and white and red stripes on it. There's a number 55 on it," and described the plane to a T. So we dragged these people out, and then the ambulance turned up, and then and they're saying like, "Are you okay? Is it what's happened?" I said, "Oh, they're quite badly burnt in the plane crash," and all this type of stuff. Anyway, it carries on, and they said, "Well, where are you now?" I said, "Oh, well, I'm back at the shop." "Of course I am. Where else would I be?" They said, "Well, what year is it?" And it was 1945. So we'd gone forward like 3 years, and it was 6th of June, 1945. So it was D-Day. So they said, "What are you doing now?" I said, "Well, I could see a plane taking off." And they said, "Do you know the names of the pilots or anything like that?" And I said, "Well, the pilot's name was Johnny Johnson, he's right, and his co-pilot was Bob. What was his hand? Bob Talbot or something. Flight Lieutenant Bob Talbot, something like that." Anyway, so by this time I'm actually in the plane and we're flying, so I can hear the noise of the planes, the engines going, the gunfire, all this sort of thing. And I'm thinking, and they're saying, "Where are you?" I said, I'm in the plane. I'm in the plane." So where are you going? I said, "We're going to France." And I said this name of this village in France. And they said, "Well, how do you know it's France?" I said, "Because we're over the coast. We're over the sea. We're flying, and there's lots of noise and bangs and just describing all this thing." And then suddenly it went blank, completely blank, and it was like black. And then within sort of 10 minutes of going blank, "Where are you?" "I don't know. I don't know." And then I came straight back to like now time. And I looked up and looked at them, and I was sitting in the room with them, thinking, "Ooh, what's happened here?" And they said, "Oh, are you back? What is it?" I said, "Oh, it's 2023, that sort of thing." So anyway, they sort of quickly scribbled all this sort of stuff down. So I was sitting there thinking, what on earth happened there? So I decided to Google it. And oh, that's right. Just before I came back, I could see this pilot, this Johnny Johnson, what I thought was looking at a watch, showing me a watch. So he's lifting something off his jacket, showing me. And I thought it was a watch, so to do with some time. So when I Googled it, I'm thinking, what on earth was this all about? So I read up the information, what I was telling them, and then I came and Googled it. And Johnny Johnson was the squadron leader in the bomber raid at D-Day, June the 6th. 1942, on June the 6th, 1942, he was shot down and crash landed in Red Hill Aerodrome. And he skidded off the runway and into the back of the allotments, which is where I describe myself running over the allotments. Him and his co-pilot and the other pilots were quite badly burned. So within them 3 years, they'd been convalesced over the 3 years and healed. And then they went back on D-Day, and he was the leader of the bombing raid over France. And they got to France, and it's all on Google. As he got to this village in France, they were dropping the bombs, and he got shot down by a German plane and gunfire. So they actually crashed into the village, in this French village where they were killed. So so that must have been the blank moment that it was all over.
Yeah.
So hi, Paula.
Hi.
So this is the really strange thing. So we Googled it, and it's all true. It's squadron leader Johnny Johnston was shot down on June 6, 1945, crash landed in this village, and sadly, that they were all killed. But they were the first ones to drop their bombs on D-Day to clear the path through.
Oh.
So anyway, I'm reading through it, thinking, oh, and his mate Tommy Thompson or something like that was his co-pilot. So the names were spot on.
Wow.
So, and the watch, what I thought was the watch, they were given the Medal of Honor because they were the first pilots to start the bombing run on D-Day over France, and obviously as the troops landed, they were bombing as far into as they could.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm thinking, oh wow, what happened there? Where did what on earth happened? Where did I go? How did I get all this like you do? Anyway, Jen said to me one day, oh, they got an open day at Biggin Hill. Do you fancy going? Because Biggin Hill's not far from where we live, about 20 minutes. Because we often see the Spitfires flying past and in and out of Biggin Hill. So they had a museum. They opened a museum, so you could walk around the museums. There's a really good Spitfire museum and World War II, and it shows you, where all the Germans dropped all the bombs all over the south coast, and really, really interesting place. Really interesting. And Jen, I was looking at where all the bombs had dropped, and Jen had walked off around the corner, and she said, "Oh my God! Oh, quick! I'm thinking she's fallen over or something's happened. So gone round the corner, and there's a picture of the Lancaster bomber with Johnny Johnson and his co-pilot standing there having the picture taken with all their crew. How unbelievable is that?
Amazing.
And it sounds like unbelievable, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I was standing there, looked, and it said Squadron Leader Johnny Johnson, his co-pilot, and it had like the bomber crew all in front of the Lancaster bomber that was shot down. And it said it was shot down over France in this village in France, and sadly died with the crew. But he was given the award and the Medal of Honor for his bravery to take the plane over into France.
Wow.
Unreal, wasn't it? Unreal. And I'll never forget that. And when you Google it and everything, the names, everything was right. The dates. How could I have known that type of stuff? And it's also like I know a lot of stuff about military planes and tanks, and that's not my interest.
No.
But I know it's like here we're with Bovingdon. I said, "Oh, Jen, look at that tank. That's a Chieftain." No, that's a Scorpion. But I've never studied tanks, so it sort of begs the thing whether I was something to do with in the war in a past life. Whether I would. How would I have known these things? I knew about planes. I knew about Lancasters. I knew about the Spitfires and the Hurricanes and all these different types. I'm not a war buff by any means, but I just seem to know really random information about that type of stuff. So it's really quite odd.
Yeah.
To be honest.
So were you sort of led into it, or did it just like spontaneously happen?
No, we were sitting on the sofa chatting after a barbecue, just the three of us. And I said, oh, it's the 6th of June, so it's D-Day. What would have been D-Day 1940? And then for a split second, when I get a connection with spirit, I get really hot. My face goes quite red and I get quite hot. And I started to get hot. And Jen looked at me and her friend Maria looked at me and went, what are you getting? And I'm like, well, I'm standing at the corner shop. What do you think? What am I getting? And it was instantly like I had my eyes shut, so I never looked at them. And instantly I was standing at this corner shop right to the very beginning of the story. And I'm looking around to describe Red Hill, like the street in Red Hill that had the shop on the corner. Because Maria lived in Red Hill, so she knew exactly where the shop was. She knew the house and the street. And then she Googled where the plane had crashed, and it had crashed exactly where I was saying. It run down the side of the house, across the allotments, and onto the airfield, because that's where the plane stopped, right in the allotments, when it was on fire. It hit the runway and carried on off the end of the runway because it had no undercarriage. So I'll never forget that. And it was just an instant flashback. It was like 10, 15 minutes long story. But I don't know whether it was a flashback or quite what happened, or they wanted to tell their story. But the amazing thing is You know, seeing it on Google and reading about what happened, and then seeing him at Biggin Hill.
Yeah.
And he looked exactly like I remember seeing him in wherever I went that day.
Yeah.
You know, he looked exactly the same. And they said he'd convalesced for about 2.5 years because they were quite badly burnt during the first crash
Mm.
landing, but then insisted on going back out on D-Day to lead the bombing squadron in over France. And to see that in Biggin Hill, you think, oh my God, how can
Yeah.
that be? So I've
Yeah.
always like wanted to be regressed. You know, I spoke to Darren a lot of times about this, you know, what his interpretation was about, because he knew a great
Mm.
deal, massive amount about regression and that, you know, and he was saying that, you know, sometimes we have these triggers, you know, and there's something somewhere or some time frame and it triggers and back you go, you know, your past
Mm.
life comes forward, you know, which is true. It's all I can say, really. And I was saying bit earlier to Angela about I went to a psychic fair with my partner Jenny. So we're at the psychic fair, and there's this woman scientist that wrote a book about past life regression. And I thought, oh, I'll buy that book because I'm quite interested in, you know, how they get you back, and because they have to
Mm.
do it safely because they got to bring you back again. Yeah,
Mm.
you know, and Darren was always a great advocate about being done properly because you've got need to
Mm.
be brought back in to the here and now properly. You know,
Mm.
he said anybody can do it, but it's how you get people back. You know, I spent a lot of time talking to Darren about this type of stuff. You know, so I spoke to her. I said, "Oh, you know, you do about past life." She said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." You know, and I said, "Oh, we're a paranormal investigator, blah blah blah." She said, "Oh, so you must know about ghosts and spirits?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And I said, "It's an interesting point." I said, "About past life." She said, "Yeah, yeah. You know, you can be regressed back." And she was talking about different experiments she's done with people over the years, many years. You know, she's been doing this type of thing 15, 20 years. So she really knew what she was on about. She's very, very clued up lady. So I bought the book and said, I said, "Can I ask you a question?" She said, "Of course you can." I said, "About phobias." Ah, right. She said, "What a good question. I'll tell you
Mm.
about phobias." And she was saying that phobias are something that we bring from a previous life into the life we're in now. So she said they've done many experiments on past life regression, taking people back. And she said what they'd been experimenting on is taking people back that have phobias. So in your previous life, 3 lives back, 4 lives back, whatever, however we've progressed from where we've been, something would have happened to you, giving you a phobia. And this is the way she was explaining it. So if you were scared of spiders or water or any phobia. And she said what they've been experimenting with is curing that phobia while you're in the regression. So talking, you'd say to you, "No, that never happened." So but and then she said a couple of people they've brought back, they've gone, their phobias are gone. And she was talking specifically about one guy that wouldn't fly, but he was a very successful businessman, but drove or used a boat, would never ever fly, you know, and he didn't know why. He couldn't get to the airport, just couldn't do it. So he went to her and said, "Look, can you help me?" And she's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, we could try." You know, they can't guarantee they'll cure it, but you can try. So anyways, so she got him, and it took a few sessions, and then suddenly they got to where what had happened originally. And then in original life, he'd been in a plane crash and
Mm.
been badly injured in a plane crash. And then she was saying that's the phobia that he's brought forward in to this life. So what they did was took him back and convinced him in a previous life that it wasn't a plane crash and that he was all right, that the plane landed safely. Said it took 2 or 3 goes, but now he flies everywhere. He's not got a
Mm.
phobia. He'll go to the airport, he get on a plane, go to the business meetings. He'll just fly off, not give it a second thought. And she said how that backs her idea up that a phobia happens in our previous lives, like scared of spiders, and you know all these things. But if you think about it, if you've got a phobia of a spider, the spider's never done anything to harm you.
No.
So why would you have a phobia? People have phobia of horses, don't they, or all sorts of things. But
Yeah.
if a horse has never hurt you, how can you have a phobia?
Yeah.
So is it that you'd fallen off a horse in a previous life? If what's happened in a previous life that's brought a phobia forward into this life? And I found that quite mind blowing, really. That I never thought of having a phobia would be caused in this life because of your previous life. And she was just really, really interesting about it and how she's very much a scientist, so she's very scientific in her approach.
Mm.
And she said they spent years and years doing these phobias and seeing whether they could cure people, whether it's just something in the head that's, it's a brain thing, or was it something brought forward from a previous life? And she was convinced that it's something that we bring through our previous lives. So if some people won't drive because they're too scared. But if they've never driven, how can they be scared of driving?
Yeah.
It's that type of scenario, isn't it? And you think,
Mm.
well, actually, she might be actually right here. So really, the only thing I could think is a past life is what happened to me that day. But I still remember it as clear as day, standing on that corner, how I described Red Hill. I've never been into Red Hill in my life, but I described the shop on the corner, exactly what the name was above the shop, all these things. How could I have done that? How could I know the plane? How could I have known the pilots' names? Because I don't study war. I don't study planes. I don't study anything in the war. But to end up in Biggin Hill on an open day and see him standing there next to his plane with his team with him, I was just mind blown. I really wanted to say something to the bloke that was walking around the museum. He was like a curator talking about the museum. And I thought, I really want to tell you this story, but you're going to think I'm mad.
Mad.
That I'm absolutely crackers. And
Yeah.
some people probably would, wouldn't they? They think, yeah, all right,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
really, that's what happened to me. And as I say, talking to this lady, I think her name was Sue something. I've got the book at home. I'm halfway through, but it is just mind blowing, absolutely mind blowing about being regressed and then curing phobias. And they're saying, could they cure other things? And the other thing is interesting is how they talk about birthmarks, and they say that could be from a previous life where you were killed, or
Yeah,
shot,
Yes,
I've
I've
or
heard
heard that.
died.
that.
I've heard that.
So
Yeah.
birthmarks end up in different places,
Yeah.
and they do say that is where you were killed in a previous life.
Yeah.
That's the wound site.
Yeah.
How true that is, I don't
Yeah.
know, to be
Mm.
honest, but I find that interesting.
Mm.
But it's when you try and do a bit of research on it, it's very difficult to
Yeah.
sort of get past that. It's a disorder or it's a trauma to the skin, during birth or whatever. But you can't sort of get past that bit to see whether how they died, maybe in a previous life, and the wound site is there. So it's difficult, isn't it, when you're trying to get back and you can't get back too far because I imagine you can somehow. Quite how, I don't know, but someone out there might know. But
Mm.
that's what they're said to happen. Have you heard that before, then, Paula?
Yeah, I've heard it, but I can't remember what I watched. Me and Justin watched something about the wounds on people, marks, everything outside. There'd be like dots or something. Would be like somebody got shot,
Yeah,
and then there'd be have like scars, which was somebody got knifed. Basically like that. So yeah, something we watched. I can't remember what it was. I had to ask Justin later to see if we can remember. But I
yeah,
remember watching a program about it that people had these scars and they realised what it was. Like you say, after beforehand, they basically in their afterlife, basically they at some point basically had these wounds, got these marks down to like you say, either be shot or scars. Yeah, I have heard that before. It wasn't
interesting,
long
isn't
ago
it?
either. Yeah, it's not long ago. I can't remember what I was
Really?
watching, but yeah, because it was a
Have you?
documentary or something I was watching.
Yeah, have you
So
heard
you
of
watch
that,
it
Luke?
on YouTube?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think I, Heard it mentioned before. Yeah.
Hmm.
And where did you hear it, Luke? Do you know?
Sure, I'm sure Darren said something about it once. I think he's
All right.
talked about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was Darren that said it, or someone on here said it once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, isn't it? That.
It is, yeah.
What's your take on it, Angela? Have you heard of that before?
Yeah, I think I only heard it last week, but I can't remember who said it or where they got it from. And that sort of got me thinking about where my birthmark is, and I can't think where it is. So I know a lot of people have one on the back of their neck, so I don't know if that's a lot of people that have been hanged or decapitated or what that could be, but it's a bit scary to think about, isn't it?
So if you get regressed, you might get the answer to your question.
I might do, yeah.
How scary would that be?
Yeah, you find out what it was, and you might not want to go there.
Hi, Christine. Good evening. Welcome. I have a favour going underwater and being out on my deck. I wonder if I drowned. Quite possibly. You know, that's very interesting. Hi, Christine. Welcome to Monday night. That's a very interesting statement, isn't it? Really, comment. You know, quite possibly, you know, in a previous life, yeah, maybe you've been in a boating accident and drowned, and then that phobia has come forward with you into this time. And, but if you think about if you think about what's happened in this life, you know, have you had any accidents in the water that's put you off, or is it all you've always been this from a child? You know, that's the question, isn't it? If you can answer it, Christine, you know, have you had this since you were a child, as long as you can remember, or has something happened, you know, in this life that's put you off the water? You know, and that's what we're saying about how things maybe happened in our past life that's now caused it to come onto this life. You know, it's followed us through as a phobia, with a phobia of flying, like Christine was saying, a phobia of water. You know, people have spiders, and you know, but if spiders never hurt you, how could you have a phobia? You know,
See, I've had two. I've literally had it in this life, so I'll probably pass it through because I don't like water. But that is down to my dad.
all right.
He took me out to deep end years ago when I was healthy, and they said I had to swim. So I never did like water. I nearly drowned. I felt like I was doing it when I was younger. So I don't. I will go in water, and I try to learn to swim myself, which I did basically for my neck reasons. But I still don't like water in my face. I hate it. When I have a shower, I just go like that with it. I won't have it in my face because I feel I'm going to drown. And with spiders, I don't like spiders because I got bitten by a spider years ago in Aldi's.
All right.
So, and I don't like spiders, so I try to keep away from spiders. I don't like when they run. My hair goes on, my body goes up with up. And it's like, oh, they start running. That's it. It's like, oh no. There's always big ones, isn't it? And the garden ones. You think, oh, do you know what I mean? But it's William don't like the spiders, and I have to brave myself and think, okay, deep breath. I've got to get rid of it. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I don't like spiders. I don't like water. There's two things I don't like. But I'll probably pass it, like you say, pass it through to somebody else. Sorry to say.
Yeah, but Christine's always had a phobia since I was a child.
Yeah.
Did something happen to you in the water when you was a child, or you just can't remember? And that's what we're saying about the phobias, how that you're bringing them through into your life. Luke, what phobias have you got?
I think it's the hospital. I think.
Right.
I was black out. I can't handle it. It's like collapse. I don't know what it is.
What, when you walk in there, or when you're waiting, or what is it? Or
as soon as I walk in there, I think. As soon as I walk in there, yeah. I have to sit in the chair sometimes. Yeah.
And then it makes you wonder. Then, is if in a previous life that you'd been killed or died in a hospital in a previous life.
Could be, yeah.
And you get that fear factor of going back in to a hospital. You get that fear factor from a previous life because the last time you were there, you died.
Yeah.
That's I don't know.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about that, Luke? Ever thought of sort of finding out why you've got a phobia like that?
Yeah, I'm trying to now. I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to go over it. Really, I want to be able to go in there.
Right. And when you go in there, do you get further in the hospital and then come out, or you just can't get in there?
But I'm okay for a minute, then all of a sudden it hits me. All comes on all of a sudden.
What comes on you though?
I can't explain. It's feel like I'll start yawning and then I feel dizzy. Then I just black out and everything goes black and I'm not really there.
Hmm.
That's very strange, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Christine's put nothing happened to me that I can remember as a child. So how, why has she got this phobia of water? Where has that come from? If nothing's happened, why would you be scared of water or swimming or whatever? But like Paula, why getting the water on your face? Why? And this begs the question, as if you could be regressed in a past life, whether you could find the answer. Same as you, Luke.
Yeah.
If you could be regressed, that may find you the answer of why you have this funny turn in hospital. Maybe something happened to you in hospital in a previous life, and as soon as you enter that energy of that hospital, it sort of takes you back, or I don't know. It's strange. What about you, Angela?
I've got kind of a similar one with water. I mean, I love swimming. I love going in the deep end and just bobbing around. But I can't be underwater for too long because I just feel like I'm going to sort of suffocate or drown or something. Even though I'm confident swimming and everything, I just don't like going under.
Yeah,
And
understand that.
so I don't know where that's from. I know when I in my first swimming lesson, we had to jump in from the side, and I wasn't expecting to go that far under. And I got really disorientated down there, sort of panicked. So I don't know if it came from that or it's just something like before that, because that was the first time I remember actually going in a swimming pool and underwater. And no, I don't like spiders either, but I can watch them. I'm fine watching them as long as they're not near me. But there was one in the kitchen earlier. I went to open a cupboard and I saw it there and it was just dangling. I was like, okay, I'll wait for it to crawl up, and it was crawling up. And then when they like fall on their web and catch themselves.
No,
Like, oh, I hate that. I was like, no, I can wait. I can stay there. But I don't know why I have a fear of them. I know my dad did and my nan did growing up, but I don't know if I picked it up from them or it goes back further. Just don't really know.
That's the thing, isn't it? We don't know whether we pick these things up from our grandparents or that, or it is something in a previous life that we've brought forward.
Yeah.
Spiders don't bother me. I could put a cup over, slide them out under, and take them outside because we don't kill them. But I do
I
have a
can't
phobia of moths. I don't like moths.
No.
Ugh, I don't know why, but I just can't deal with it. But
I think
spiders,
more than 4 legs. It's like, why have you got that many legs? It's just no.
yeah. Why do you need that
Something
many
wrong with
legs?
you.
Just means you run faster than me.
It's when they run, isn't it? It's when they run. That's the worst thing. They
Yeah.
stay still and they just run. And you think, no, go away.
It's when they run and you lose sight of them as well, isn't it?
I
Oh
went
my
to my
God,
bed.
where is it?
It's in my
Yeah.
bedroom. It's got to go. If it don't, I'm not going to sleep there that night. I go and sleep downstairs. That's how I'm like. I'm sorry. It's not so. It's got to go. Do you know what I mean? Because I'll be
It's how
there all
funny.
night staying awake. I would be like that. Keep watching it where it's going.
Yeah.
How funny. How funny.
Yeah, I
But
would. I sleep
any,
downstairs. I don't care.
how funny. So the question is, Paula, would you have a past life regression done, or would you fear what could happen?
I don't know. I've been hypnotised before. And that was great. Do
Right?
you know what I mean? I went back. Do you know what I mean? It took me ages to get back out, though. That's the problem.
Did it?
Because when she did hypnotise me and everything else, she said I was giggling quite a lot, which was good.
Yeah.
Because they say when you giggle, that's when because I remember saying to you to think of something nice, basically, like with me, it's either beach or somewhere in the countryside that I like, basically. And they tell you to visual on something like that you like. And then you take yourself down some steps slowly to this door, and then you go to where there's, a field or whatever it is. So they slowly walk you down it, basically. And I
Yeah.
remember being in the place, which, I won't go through the ins and outs what exactly happened, but because I, past what, the past what's happened to me, but I
Yeah.
had to go to exercise to get over it, basically. So
Right.
with that, I did that basically. But when she tried to get me out, I couldn't get out. Do you know what I mean? That was the problem. It took me ages to get out of it because I was that under. And it took my first session. It was first session. It was as well. I was put me under, and took me ages to get me out. And I was thinking, God, I can't get out of this thing. I think that's another thing. If I did go back, I might not be able to get back out. That's a problem because we've done it before with hypnotism, basically. But she got me out in the end. And then the
Yeah.
second time, I did it about 3
You would get
times.
out eventually. You can't just
Yeah.
stay there. Eventually,
No.
you just
In your head, you're like trying to, oh, it says relax, relax, relax. She was saying to me, I
yeah.
can hear her voice and everything else. And you're trying to calm yourself down because you're stressing because you want to get out. Do you know what I mean? But you can't.
Yeah,
do you know
yeah.
what I mean? So, do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I have been hypnotized. So that is being under such.
That's strange, isn't it? You know how you
Mm,
can think in your head that you can't get out. They can always get you back.
yeah.
You know, it's how see they have to bring you out a certain way, don't they? You know, because you've got to come back to reality because you
Yeah.
can't live that non-reality life. You've got to come
Yeah.
back to the real time. So
Yeah.
eventually,
She had to put
she
me
would have
back.
got you back.
Yeah, it's because I had to go back to something happened 2 years ago, and I had to go back to that situation to get over it. So that's what I was doing basically. So because I was that stressed, I think I was in that situation. She put me in that situation again, and I couldn't face
Right.
it. So in the end, I had to
Right.
close the door on it. And that's the best thing
Yeah.
she could do for me to get me out because I was stuck there. I couldn't get out. That's what it felt like. So it took me long to get back out. But it's only so many minutes. But to me, it seemed forever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Weird.
that was scary. Yeah. I felt great afterwards though. When I came out, I was buzzing. It's funny after I got out of it, I don't remember a lot about it, but I remember. But I was like, like when I was out there, anybody said anything else, I could tell them go away, la la la. I was about so
Yeah.
didn't care. I mean, the world.
It shows you how much it works or how much they can put you down under
Yeah,
into the hypnosis. I know Darren was very much into that. You know how much they can put you in, but it's how safe they bring you back out. Is what
yeah,
Darren always used to emphasise. It's
yeah,
not how you go in; it's how you come back out. Is
yeah,
where the damage is done.
yeah,
You know, so they need to whatever's there, they need to leave it there and come out without it. Otherwise, you
yeah.
could come forward with it. You know, and that sort of is interesting, really. What about you, Luke? Would you be regressed,
Yeah, I'd be happy
or
to
would
do
you
that.
think?
Yeah,
Oh, I don't know.
yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Would you to see
Yeah.
what? Do you have any inkling if you've been anything before in a previous life, or how do you know certain things that you just don't know?
Well, I get freaked out by the Titanic, and I have an interest in the Titanic since I was a child. That's been happening. I used to go to I watched a movie once, and I couldn't sleep because I was scared I was in the Titanic sinking with it. So I've got a feeling I might have been on there.
Oh wow!
Used to scare
And
me. Yeah.
in what way did it scare you? With
Just the whole like going down with the ship and then sinking into the water and freezing to death in the water.
God.
and you could sort of relate to that, could you?
Yeah, used to scare me quite a bit.
How weird is that? That's
Yeah,
strange, isn't it?
yeah,
So you think if you went back, you would be something on the Titanic
yeah. It could be. Yeah,
or some ship that's gone
yeah,
completely peaked on?
yeah.
Would it
Unless
be
it
the
was.
Titanic or would a warship?
No, the
Could it have
Titanic. I
been
felt the Titanic more. It feels. I have an interest in
right?
that. Yeah,
Sorry, Paula, what was you going to say?
I was going to say because you're saying about hospitals, unless you're saying something about the Titanic, unless it was saying in the hospital in the Titanic, because they know they're doctors, didn't they?
Yeah,
In there, unless it's something related to that, maybe. Do you mean because you had doctors on there maybe went well to one point and you was there in the
yeah.
doctor's bit basically, and then it went down. You don't know, do you?
No,
no,
Could be something
no.
related to that.
And it could have been maybe you worked on a hospital ship in the war
Yeah,
that went down.
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
But the ship
exactly.
reminds you of the Titanic, or be
Yeah,
interested to see if you were taken
yeah,
back.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, to see because I think if I was to do it, and I would like to do it, I'd record it on my phone so I could hear
Yeah,
myself talk about where I am. Because when you
yeah,
come out, you say, "Oh, what happened?" And they could only give you brief notes, couldn't they? Really,
yeah,
or they record it and you can play it back and listen to it.
yeah.
yeah.
You know, but would that be a good thing or bad thing? Do you think if you could play it back to yourself and listen to what happened? What happens if you die traumatically?
Yeah.
I'll
Would
still be
that
interested. I'll be
do
interested to
what,
hear.
Luke?
I'll be interested to hear it.
But what if you died traumatically? A gunshot, a battle, or something in a war, or you met with a fatal accident. He's run over by Dick Turpin, or someone
Mm.
like with his awesome car, or
Yeah, true.
you ended your life tragically. Would that, if you heard that back, would that affect you in this life? Do you think?
I thought it help me move forward. I think it would.
Right.
Mm.
What about you, Angela? What would you think about if you heard it and it's and you died tragically? What would you think?
I really don't know. But it reminds me of a book I read recently. Well, it's actually an audio book I listened to by Dolores Cannon. And she used to take people back to pretty much the point of death so she could find out what actually happened to the spirit sort of in between the lives where it went before it sort of reincarnated again. And that was really fascinating. It wasn't just like a couple of people, it was lots and lots of them. And they all sort of said pretty much the same thing, what happens when you like leave your body and where you go up there. And like Jenny was saying to me the other weekend about there's a place of healing you go to, especially if you've like
Yeah,
passed over traumatically. I
yeah,
thought,
the
yeah,
halls of
that's what
healing.
I've heard about. Yeah,
Yeah, they call them the halls of healing, don't they?
yeah. And it can be years before you get sort of reincarnated again to something else. And it's all to do with like learning. And there's like a kind of like a school, I suppose, where
Mm.
you learn a lot there, and then you come down here to sort of learn from experience. And it's all
Right.
about sorting out different karmas. So if you did something bad in a previous life, you're trying to sort it out in the next life, or sort of you want to have certain experiences just to learn from them. And it was sort of really
Oh,
fascinating, this book.
yeah,
It's
that's an
called
interesting.
Between Death and Life by Dolores Cannon.
Uh,
Mm.
and that's an audio book, is it? On that, like an Amazon
Yeah,
audio book. Interesting.
yeah. And there
Just
was
put it on the
another
chat. I'd
one,
like to have a listen to that.
another called Proof of Life After Life, which had sort of very similar stuff in it as well. That was a really good book.
And who was that?
Right.
Do you know who that was written by?
That's Raymond A. Moody.
All right. That sounds
Yeah, I'll put
interesting, doesn't it?
in the
So if you're
comments.
interested in that type of sort of life after death, if you want to say, for want of a
Yeah.
word, or
Mm.
we'll drop it on the chat or give us a ping, and I'm sure Andrea can drop you a note of what she's read and
Yeah.
obviously the books, the audio books, and that. So it's well worth, if you're into that sort of thing or you want to know, some of the experiences as a paranormal investigator, we've seen and heard, and you do know that there is something, there is life after death.
Mm.
There is something. We've been in that situation where you think, how can that be?
Mm.
How can you have that whisper? How can you have that knock?
Mm.
How can you hear that voice, or how can you feel that touch?
Yeah.
And that sort of begs the question, when you read these books, these people are right, aren't they? But
Oh,
what happens at that specific time that you pass, and I know it's very big in the spiritual world that you go to the halls of healing where you heal from all your ailments.
yeah.
Sometimes, I've done like a reading for people, and I'm going about this person, and then I can see this person jumping up and down.
Oh,
So that's my trigger to say that they had trouble walking in this life, or mobility was really bad and they couldn't get around. So when I see
yeah.
them in spirit and they're jumping up and down, to me, they've been cured of what they had on the earth
Mm.
plane. So they're telling me to tell that sitter or whatever that they're okay now. They can run, they
Oh,
can jump, they can walk. There is no more mobility issues.
yeah.
And that sort of thing I see, if in if they had mobility issues on the earth plane before they sadly passed, that they're showing me in the spiritual world that they're okay, they're happy, they're
Mm.
well, they're jumping up and down. So you assume their mobility's back,
Yeah.
So that's a big thing in the halls of healing.
Mm.
They go there. you know, who knows how long you're there, why you're being healed, or you know, it could be years. Who knows? But
Mm.
you know, I'm a very big believer in it. That type of horse of healing. You know, because it's like, you know, we're on a journey, aren't we? That's what we're on.
Yeah.
Whether we learn from that journey or we teach people from our journey.
Mm.
But when we've got no more to teach people, I think we pass on because we start again to do something different. You know,
Yeah.
that's the way I see it. Once we've taught or
Mm.
we've learned that lesson, like Angela was saying, you learnt
Yeah.
that lesson, then there's no more you can learn, no more you can teach. So you sadly passed away, but you moved on to do something different or to help someone different, or
Mm.
you appear in someone else's life and make a difference to their life.
Mm.
You know, I'm a true believer in that.
Mm.
You know, that's what happens to us. But, you know, going back to phobias and past life regression, you know, if there's anybody in here that wants to make a comment or anything like that about past lives and phobias and all of that, what I'll do is I'll find that book and I'll put the lady's name up that wrote it. But a most interesting book about past life regression and the phobias, you know, how they're trying to cure phobias that, you know, people can't fly, people can't, whatever it may be, you know, and how they worked out if they took them back. And it might be that some people have one past life, some people have 3 or 4 different past lives. But she was saying, you know, they have to take you back and find what happened and where it happened to bring you back out.
Yeah.
So you come back out without that phobia. So if it's
Mm.
3 lifetimes ago, so they'll bring you to the next lifetime and it'll be gone. Then they'll gradually bring you back. So you can't sort of just do it all in one go because it's too much.
No.
So
Yeah.
they'll make it different in the next life, and then slightly different in the next life, and then the third life. And when you reach this life, it's gone because they
Yeah.
gradually got you over that
Yeah.
phobia. I must put a book up, and I must remember to do that. But if you get a chance, it may well be on audio. I don't know, but I bought it off her at a fair, and she was so interesting, really, really interesting. And she does a lot of talks on where would she say she was? She does lots of talks and fairs at the Women's Institute. She talks about the regression and all of this type of stuff. Oh, she said she's done it at universities, and she's a doctor, like of this science.
Mm.
But she is very, very interested. And like she was saying, you know, when we do a paranormal investigation, you know, she said, I've never done one, but, you know, what do you get? How do you get it? Why do you get it? You know, what's it all about? What are you looking for? You know, a true scientist is what you're looking for. What do you want to know? And that's the question we all ask, don't we, really? You know, like I said in that talk in the conference, isn't it? The question we want to know is there life after death, isn't it? That's all everybody wants to know.
Mm.
You know, whether we live long enough to find the answer, some of the things that have happened on the paranormal investigations, I'm convinced, you know, because you just can't explain it normally,
No.
No.
you know, and a few bits that's happened, you know, when we did another location with me, Angela, and Dora and that, you know, what came through that night, you cannot explain.
Yeah.
You know, it's just mind blowing, really, isn't it? And I think the more you try and work it out, the worse it gets. I mean, you just got to go with it and say, do you know what? It is what it is. You
Yeah.
know. So, say anybody out there, thank you, Christine, for your comments. That's interesting. Or you're a phobia of water. Be interesting if anybody out there is listening or catch up, message us, and see and come back to us with what you think, what your take is on it. You know, you may have a different view on past life regression, or you'd say, "Nah, sod that. I wouldn't be doing that just in case something bad came of it," or you know, you were a witch at Pendle Hill, or you know, something terrible like that. That brings me to a program on, I think it was Channel 4. Saran Jones, if you heard of her, the actress I think she did a really interesting program on witches. Did you watch that, Luke?
I heard about it. I haven't
And
seen
she
it
was
yet.
talking about how they were ridiculed and how they were found out and how the Pendle Hill witches were executed. And a lot of these witches that were executed were normal women, you know, and they just decided, oh, she's a witch, they're a witch,
Yeah.
you know, and the rumours started then, and you know, and they were innocent people. And she talks about her life and going through what happened to them and right up until the end of them, you know, where they were burnt or they were drowned or hung, or and they would hang them in a public hanging, you know, so everybody could see, and just horrendous, really, how they were treated. And she emphasises a lot on Pendle Hill witches, which are quite a famous place where they were executed. I think, is it you, Luke, that were interested in that?
Yeah, I would like to go there. Yeah, Pendle Hill. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it was you that spoke about
so,
the
yeah.
Pendle witches, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'd like to go there. Yeah.
Why would you like to go there, Luke? Explain to us why you'd like to go there.
I just want to feel the energy or the atmosphere would be like there.
No other reason. You're not drawn to it.
I don't know really. That's what it's just an interesting place. Just as experience it really, see what the energy's like.
Because they were saying that, you know, not all witches were female.
Yeah.
You know, some of them there were males executed for being witches.
Yeah.
You know, she was saying like the witches are, you know, they're very famous to have like their broomsticks, and that's because a lot of women in them days would use the broomsticks for cleaning the yard.
That's right.
So one rumour started it. She's a witch with her broom, and that's how the broomstick became part of a witch's. What we see now, how we relate to witches, is because they would have used them broomsticks for cleaning the yard, steps, whatever. So they're related to the woman witch would be with her broomstick. You know, and they were saying and she was saying some of these witches were actually healers. You know, they were in touch with nature and they could use stuff from nature to help heal people.
Yeah.
And yet they were cast as witches because, you know, nobody can do that. Nobody can heal anything. So they were a lot of them were classed as witches, and they would have healed people because they found things in nature that, you know, that would cure people. And yet people would say, oh, she's a witch. And they would say, if you didn't like your neighbour, you'd start a rumour, oh, I think she's a witch doing stones.
Yeah.
You know, before you know it, the whole village is up against you and you're a witch. A very, very interesting programme if you get a chance to watch it. I'm sure her name is Saran Jones. She's an actress. And she talks about the witches. Very, really interesting. Really interesting about how she gets on with it. So well worth a watch. So any other questions, Angela, or anything?
No.
No. Okay. Anybody else got a question?
No.
Want to chat about something, Luke? Luke?
I found out Fleet Pond might be haunted. That's near me.
Fleet Pond?
Yeah.
All right.
It's got.
Tell us a bit about that, though, Luke. Tell us a bit about that location.
It came up on Facebook. Someone's doing an event there, and they had like monks apparently used to go there. I think years ago. I never knew it was haunted until I saw it on Facebook.
How far is that away from you then?
Just not that far. Just about the next town away, and the next few towns away. I think like 10 or 15 minutes.
Are you going to go along there and have a look, or?
Yeah, I've already, but not with the other people investigating there.
No, go on your own sort of thing, or with the group.
Yeah, the group. Yeah, I was going to mention it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. I never heard of that one.
Yeah, Fleet Pond. Yeah.
I know. I've heard of Frensham Ponds. That's not far from you, is it? That's in Farnham, isn't it?
Yeah.
Frensham Ponds.
Yeah.
I've never heard of the other one though.
Yeah, I've heard of it all the time. I never knew it's haunted though.
No, just shows you, doesn't it? Really.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder how these people find this information out, doesn't it? It's getting a bit dark in here now, isn't it? I'm sitting in the car. The grandchildren are in the caravan, crashing and banging around. So I've relegated relegated to the car. So if we have no more questions or anybody joining in, we'll call it a night then at this. So a big thank you to everybody that's tuned in, Christine and Ian. Thank you for coming along tonight and putting your questions. If you have anything about phobias, as you saw at the bottom of the screen, Angela's put on there, contact us. We'd love to hear from you, or if there's anybody out there that's been regressed and that would be willing to come on and talk to us about your experience with being regressed. We'd be so interested in that, because a few of us on here would like it to happen and see what happens and why we have these type of things happen, like myself with the aeroplanes and the tanks and all these type of things. I mean, I'm not a war buff by any means. I've watched a few war films, but that'll be about as much as I've done. And I don't know how I know about aeroplanes. I don't know how I knew about the bombers. I seem to know about tanks and just most random stuff. Like I could tell you that a Tiger tank weighed 56 tons, a German Tiger tank. How would I know that? And I don't, and I've not been to the Bovingdon Tank Museum today, but I just know that they weigh 56 tons, and they have a barrel diameter of 88 millimeters, so the biggest ever gun. They were the nemesis of the Second World War for our tanks, because they were so big and so mighty. But I've never studied Tiger tanks. I don't know. I just really don't know. So, one day maybe I'll find someone that can do regression and maybe take me back there and see what happened. Maybe something I did fight in a war, or I don't know. Something's going on, but quite what, I don't know. But obviously, a big thank you for coming in and watching us tonight. I'm not sure next week what we're doing. We'll be back on, but we'll think of something to talk about, and we'll put it up on the chat. So keep an eye on the page, and we'll launch it on Facebook. So if you're into it, come in and that. We may see Daniel. I know he's busy with his Bigfoot stuff, so we may get Daniel back in to talk how he's getting on with his production, and he's had a few hiccups on the way, apparently. So hopefully we can get him back on in and just chat to us about, how things are going in the Bigfoot world and the cryptids. Maybe John Downs. So if there's no more questions or anybody on here, so we'll say have a really, really safe week, everybody. And we'll see you next Monday. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.